Let's go to our demo project. Here we have this welcome area. So the next area we're working on is this welcome area and then this about us area. For now, we only have the hero section in our main project. Now let's go back to our code. I'll close the CSS for now. In the HTML file, after the section for the hero area, below it, we want to create a section and then give it a class called intro section. Inside this section, we want to create another div and give it a class called title block. So this title block, we will go to our demo project. This area where we have welcome to Blue Wave Air and then the paragraph below it. We want to enclose it in a div with a class called title block. And then this area with 3 columns, we're going to enclose it in another div and give it a class. So back to our code. In the title block, we want to add a h2 tag. In it, we'll add a tag called small. In this small tag, we'll have a text called welcome to. And then after the small tag, we have Blue Wave Air. Below the h2, we'll provide a p tag. In it, we'll write some text. The text says, we provide trusted flight services and professional guidance designed to make every journey smooth, secured, and stress-free from start to finish. So we've created our title block area. The next div we want to create will be called container. In the div container, we'll wrap those 3 columns inside another div. So we'll call this div grid 3. The reason why I gave this class grid 3 is because we're going to use the CSS Flex or CSS Grid to display the items horizontally, giving each of them columns. So it's going to create something like a 3 column inside this grid 3 div. When we go to our browser, we can see how the item is displayed from our main project. So that is what we want to achieve. Back to our code. So inside the grid 3 div, we want to create each of these items in a card. The div card name will be intro card. So we have a div and then the class name will be intro card. For the first card, we want to create a wrapper. To be an image wrapper, so img dash wrapper. In the img wrapper, I want to create an image tag. We don't have the image yet in our main project. The alternative text will be intro image. After the image wrapper div, we want to create a h3 tag. In the h3 tag, we want to put a text in an anchor tag. So when this text is clicked, it can go to the service we provide. In the href, we just provide hash, and then the text will be reliable flight services. Below the h3, we want to add a p tag, and then we can write this text in it. The text reads, enjoy well-planned routes, modern aircraft, and commitment to safety that ensures confidence anytime you travel with us. Below the p tag, we'll create an anchor tag. This anchor tag, we can provide hash in the href and then give it a class. The class name will be button open. And then for the text to display in the anchor tag, we have learn more. So we've been able to create the first intro card. Since we have the first intro card, all we have to do is copy this code, and then below it, we paste the second intro card. For the second intro card, we just change some text in it. And one of the text we want to change is the h3. In the h3, we'll provide comfort and care. And then in the p tag, we'll write our team focuses on comfort, friendly service, and a smooth experience, making each trip relaxing from boarding to arrival. Now notice that before the arrival, we used a break tag to bring this arrival text to a new line. And then for the anchor tag, we'll leave it as learn more. We'll copy the second intro div and then paste it below. This will create the third intro card. And for the h3, we're going to write complete travel support. And then in the paragraph, we're going to write From appointment and guidance to booking and planning, we assist you every step of the journey with support. And then for the anchor tag, we'll leave it as learn more. With this, we've been able to create this section called intro section. The next thing we want to do is to go to our CSS and begin the styling. So to do that, I'll just click on my CSS and then split my screen. In the left screen, I'll toggle the HTML tab. So I want to be looking at the HTML classes while I provide the style in my CSS. So scroll down to the end of your CSS. When you're writing your CSS code, something I forgot to tell you, it's a good thing that each section you style, you write the title of that section in your CSS and comment it. So we call this area the intro section. In capital letter, I'll write intro section. And then I will comment it with control and question mark. Below it, I want to call my intro class, which is the intro section. And then I'll give it a padding. We have 56px and then 0. This will create a space inside the intro section. And then the next class, we have title block. For the title block, we want to give it a width of 60%, a margin left, margin right auto, margin bottom 60px, and then text align center. This title block, we know it's this section holding our H2 and our paragraph. Giving it a width of 60% is for the desktop view. So we want it to be contained in a width of 60%. And then we want the left and right margin to be auto. This will bring the title block to the middle of the page since they're having a left margin of auto and a right margin of auto. The margin bottom will be 60px and then the text will align center. When we say align center, it means we want the H2 and the paragraph to be at the center of the page. So I think I can go refresh now. So this tab is for the demo and this tab is for our main project. So I'll go to our main project and then if I refresh and scroll down, so we have welcome to Blue Wave Air. The text is aligned center. And these other guys, they are not yet styled, okay? So there's something we forgot to do. We've not provided the image for this intro card. In order to do that, we need to go to our demo project and then click on the document folder. Click on project sample. In project sample, click on main and then img. We want to look for intro. So this intro is the folder holding our images. What we'll do is to copy it and then go back to documents, select Blue Wave Air. In img, we'll just paste the intro folder. Now we have the intro folder in our main project. We can go to our code editor. In the HTML, we'll go to the image area. So for the first intro card, The image source, we're going to write img slash. We want to select the intro folder, and then we'll select intro one. For the second intro card, we want to go to the source and type img. We select intro and we'll select intro 2. So remember how we're able to trace this file is that in our sidebar, we have this folder called img folder. And in this img folder, we have the intro folder, which we copied from our demo project. So we are accessing this intro folder, and then we are displaying each image in it. Okay, so it's remaining the third image. Go to the intro card for the third div, and in the image source, we'll type img slash. Select the intro folder and then the third image. After we've done this, when we go to our browser and then we refresh, we have our images now. So back to our CSS, we'll continue styling our code. We can close this area to expand our screen. After the title block, which is this area, we then want to style the container housing our three items. Also remember we've already styled this container up here. So we're having a width of 80%, which is why these items is not starting from the beginning of our page. You can see they are adjusted already. And I think we also gave it a margin. So we have a margin of photo. Once you give a container a width of 80% with a margin of photo, this gives an automatic margin for that width. So back to our code. Since we've already styled the container, the next area we need to style is the grid tree. Okay, so the grid tree is holding the tree intro card. For this grid tree, because we'll be using this grid tree so many places in our code, for example, if I should go to the web browser and I go to our demo project and I scroll down, you can see this area where we had the latest news. The content of this latest news also use a div with class called grid tree. So we're not only using grid tree in this area, we also use it as we move on in our project. So what do I want to do? I want to write the code for this grid tree in a way that we can always reuse the class. To do that, when we go back to our code, after the image selector we styled at the topmost area of our code, below it, we want to call the grid tree class. And then I want to give it display grid. Now, when you use display grid, the following code determines the number of columns you want to create in that grid. To create a column in a grid, we use this CSS styling known as grid template columns. And then the value determines the number of columns you want to provide. So if I should use one fractional unit, and then one fractional unit, this will create a tree column inside our grid class. So if we go to our browser, go to the main project and then refresh, you can see we now have three columns inside this grid 3 class. So it's actually the code that made us achieve this three column, not the name of the class. The name of the class is just a name you can suggest. You can give it any name you want. But what determines how this is being displayed is the style we apply to the class. So back to our code, we want to also give it a gap, and the gap will be 24 px. And then if we go back to our browser and then refresh, you can see it's now having a gap. So this will only apply for desktop view. It's also good we provide how it's going to appear in tablet view and also mobile view. So for that, when we go back to our code, in the tablet view where we have max width of 991 px, we want to add our grid 3 class. And then this time we just want to change the grid template column from having one fractional unit into 3 to just one fractional unit into 1. So we have a grid template column and then one fractional unit. And when we go to our browser and refresh, then we inspect, you can see how it appears in mobile view. So in mobile view is appearing just one. We should adjust our screen to tablet view to still take one fractional unit in tablet view. Then when we go to desktop view, it becomes one fractional unit into 3. So this is how we've been able to achieve our grid styling. Remember, you can also use display flex. Display flex is almost the same thing with grid, but I found grid easier to use and it achieved our goal easily. So back to our code. For our title block, we have this H2 and P. We also need to provide a general styling since we're already in this top area. So we want to give our H1 to H5 a general styling and also our paragraph tag a general styling. We can still call them later using the title block and then H2 or title block and then P. But it's also good that you give a general styling in case you forgot to style them later. So for our H1 to H5, these are elements we might be using later in our code. We want to give it some margin. The top will be 0, the right will be 0, the bottom will be 12 px, and then the left will be 0. We also want to give them a general font weight. The font weight can just be 700, and that is it. Then for the P tag, we want to give it a margin also. And the top will be 0, the right will be 0, the bottom will be 12 px, and then the left will be 0 as well. This time around for the P, we're giving it a color. And then the color value will take a global variable called muted. And that is all we want to apply in this top area. So when we go to our browser and then refresh, you might not see more changes, but this our P tag is now having a muted color. Same with this area. Back to our code, we can scroll down and then continue our styling. After the title block styling, the next styling we want to apply is for the title block H2. How do we select the title block H2? We can use their parent class to select it so that we know that is this particular element we are styling, which will be different from the general style we gave to H2. So we select intro section and then title block and then H2. Here we want to give a font size of 21 px, a line height of 21 px. Okay, you can just copy the styling while I type it. So this is the style for the H2. The next thing we want to style is the P tag. So we'll pick the P tag. So the same way we selected the H2 tag, we have to select the P tag as well. For the P tag, we'll start with a font size of 18 px. So that is for the P tag. With this, we've been able to style the code in our title block. The next area we want to style is the intro card. Remember, we'll style the container at the top and also the grid 3 class at the top. So the intro card, we want to select it. And then we'll give it a background, a white background. We want to give it a box shadow. So from left to right, we have 0. From top to bottom, we have 6 px. And then the spread of the shadow will be 20 px. And then the color, we have arrow GBA 000 0.03. So this will be the shadow. For the intro card H3, we'll give it a margin top of 30 px. And then just follow me as I write the remaining code. And then text transform, we have uppercase. The next area is the link in the intro card history. For the anchor tag, we just want to give it a color, and then it will take a global variable of text. Now, because most links usually take this blue color, and it might be difficult for us to apply this text dark color. Therefore, to make sure that this color applies, we need to use this keyword called important. So when you provide the exclamation mark, then you type important. So this will treat this particular style we apply here as important, therefore overriding the previous style it has. And then for the p tag, We have intro card P. Here we have a margin bottom of 18 px, a font size of 18 px, a line height of 26 px. And next, we have the intro card and then anchor tag. So we'll call the intro card A tag. We'll give it a color. Color should be our global variable, which is our primary color. Text transform will be uppercase. And then font weight will be 700. Next, we want to give a color when we hover on this anchor tag. So we have intro card A with a hover. The color should be a dark color. And that is it. So this style we apply for the three intro cards. Next area of not style is this image wrapper. So we want to call the image wrapper. We have intro card and then img wrapper. We'll give it an overflow of hidden so that if the image is too big for the container, it will hide inside the container and not overflow to the next element. The margin button will be 12 px. And that is it. So when we go to our browser and then we refresh, we have this good looking welcome section. The next thing we want to do is to make some style changes for tablet view and then for mobile view. So when we go back to our code, for the tablet view, we want to work on this intro section. So how do we do that? We need to call the @media query. And then when the max width is in tablet, which is 991 px, we want the intro section to take a max width. So we'll give it 436 px. And then a margin left. A margin right too. Also, we want the container in it to take a padding of 0. So we'll call the container and then we'll give it a padding of 0. We also want the title block to take a width of 100%. So for tablet view, we want the intro section, which is everything in this container, to take a max width of 436 px. This will make the width smaller. And then we want it to take a margin left of auto and margin right of auto. And then the container should take a padding of 0. With this, it will take away every inner space inside the container, giving room for this content to display very well. And then for the title block, we want it to take a width of 100%. Also, when it takes a width of 100%, it will give room for the H2 and the P to display very well, instead of them to shrink in the tablet view. Lastly, we want to also make a style for mobile view. And then when the max width is 768 px, we want the intro section to take a max width of 90%. Now, when we go to our browser and then refresh, inspect the browser, we are still on desktop view. So when you take it down a little, and then we have our tablet view. So remember, we gave this intro section a width of 436 px. This width of 436 px is what made this intro section look like this. And then when you also reduce it, in mobile view, we made it to take a width of 90%. So when it takes a width of 90% in mobile view, it will just give a little space for the remaining 10%. This makes our web design responsive for all devices. You can see the importance of using media query when styling with CSS. And then when we go back to our code, you can see where we wrote that in tablet view, let intro section take a max width of 436. And then for mobile view, we said let intro section take a max width of 90%. And that is how we've been able to achieve this. Back to our demo project. The next section we want to work on is who we are section. This who we are section will not take much of our time. So we're going to work on this section now. Before we work on this who we are section, if I should refresh this our main project, you can see how an animation is applied and this item came in from here. This one came in from here. What we used here is what we call a wow animation. So we want to implement a wow animation in this our main project. To implement that, we can open a new tab in our web browser and go to ChatGPT. In ChatGPT, we can tell it, give me the link to implement the wow animation in my web page. Then you click on send. I'll just refresh this and click try again. I'll copy my question again and then paste it here and then send. Okay, it actually gave both reply. I don't know what happened anyway. But let's go through what it gave us. We have this link for the animation.css. We also have this script for the wow.js. And then we have this code that is going to initialize the wow. And then we can apply this animation. Okay, so what we want to do is we'll copy this. I'll just click this button, copy. The first one I copy is for the link, which is the CSS. So when I copy it, I'll go to my HTML and close this. In my HTML, I'll go to the top area. After the icon, which is the blue wave air icon, I'll put my cursor at the end of it and hit enter, then Ctrl V. So I've pasted the CSS link. I'll go back to my browser. For the wow.js, I'll click the copy button. This will copy the script link. I'll go back to my code and below the animation.css, so I'll paste the script here. And this will include the script link into my code. Make sure you are connected to the internet. Then lastly, when I go back to the chat, we have this code that will initialize our wow animation. So I'll just copy the code. When you copy this code, go back to your HTML code, then scroll down before the body tag, just hit enter twice and then paste it there. You can organize your code. So with this, we've been able to implement the wow animation in our code. The next thing we want to do is to call the class that is going to trigger those animations. So we'll go to our intro card. In the intro card, inside the class, the first thing you want to call is the wow, and then you want to use animate slide in left. So want the first one to slide in from the left. After providing the class, the next attribute we want to provide is called data wow duration. For the wow duration, we want it to display within 1.3 seconds. So that is for the first intro card. For the second intro card, we provide the wow, and then we use animate zooming. The wow duration this time around will be 1.3 seconds as well. Remember, the data wow duration is an attribute. It is not inside the class. The only thing we'll put inside the class is the wow and then the wow name, which is animate zooming or animate slide in left. So for the duration, it's a different attribute. So for the third intro card, we want to give it a wow, and then it will take animate slide in right. Also take note that when we are using slide in or zoom in, we are using what we call camel case. This means that we start with a small letter and then we're able to identify the next words using a capital letter. So in is starting with capital letter and write is starting with capital letter. So this is known as camel case method of writing a word. And then for the while duration, we also have 1.3 seconds. Now when we go refresh, go to our main project and refresh. It's not working yet, so let's go back to our browser. So we don't really know where the problem is from. The best thing we have to do is to go back to our chart and then let's select this example they gave us to put in the class. So I'll just copy this wow example they gave us in this class. And then I'll go to my code, select the first one I applied and paste it there. Then I go to my browser, our main project, and I refresh. I think there's a problem with the one we did. Let's add an underscore here again. So we have double underscore and then also add double underscore. You can see we have double underscore here, right? For the animate fading up. So let's go back and then refresh. Okay, so we now have it working. So what we want to do is to rewrite what we had previously. I don't need this animate animated. Just make the code too long. So we have animate here. Our first one, what we used was slide in left. So we can use slide in and then left. And then when we go back and refresh, so it's slide in left, slide in right, and then this one is zoom in. The next area, like I said, we're going to work on is who we are. So this is our main project. Back to our code. After the section for intro section, we want to create another section here. So we'll create a section and then it will take a class called about section. Inside of it, we'll create a div with class container. Inside the class container, we want to create another grid. So this time around, I'll give it a grid 2 because we only have 2 columns. When you go to our demo, we have 2 columns, right? Left and right. So I'll just use a class called grid2, div.grid-2. So when I do it this way, I'll create my class faster. Inside this grid2, we want to first create the image block. I'll create a div and the class name will be img block. In this image block, we'll create our image. And then for the alternative text, we have about image. I think we should bring in our image now so we won't forget. So go to your file explorer and then in documents, we have the project sample. Click on main img and then click and copy the about folder. Go back to document in blue with img. Paste the about folder here. Now go to the code In the image source, we have img and about, we have about 01. So we've been able to bring our about image and it will go to the img folder in our sidebar. Click on about, we have about 01. I want to close this CSS so I can expand my HTML since we are working on HTML now. I can close this sidebar. Remember, this is the section we're working on. After the image block, we want to create another div to give it a class called content block. In the content block, we want to create h2. In the h2, we have who we are. We would wrap this who we are in a span. So just cut this text who we are and then put it in this span. Bring down the closing tag of the h2. And then after the span below it, we have this text. We deliver trusted services with excellence and care. After the h2, we have the paragraph, which is the p tag. In it, we're going to write this text. And just break from this and customer satisfaction. So in the paragraph tag, we are committed to providing reliable solutions designed to simplify every step of your journey, from professional guidance to smooth planning and execution. Our team focuses on quality, safety, and customer satisfaction at all times. We also create another paragraph and then we write this text. So we can just break from delivering dependable and It says our experience, attention to detail, and customers' first approach set us apart in delivering dependable and stress-free services. Then we'll create an anchor tag. In the href, we provide the hash and then to take a class, btn, and then btn main. The text for the anchor tag will be read more. So this is all we will provide for this section. The about section, you can screenshot it or you pause the video and then copy this code. The next thing I want to do is to write the CSS for this section. But before that, let's see how it is on the browser. When I go to the browser, then I'll refresh. When I scroll down, we have the image and then we have the text. So you can see whenever you add a code in your HTML, it appears vertically, which is from top to down. And then you use CSS to style it how it's meant to be. Now back to our code, click on the CSS file and then split the screen. In the left side, I'll click on my HTML. So this will enable me to see the class I'm trying to style. And then I can style the class in my CSS code. So scroll down while in CSS. After the intro section, we want to write a text in capital letter and write about section. Then you comment this text. So this will enable us to differentiate the intro section from the about section. Here we want to call the about section and then give it a background. So this is a kind of white background, but not too white. And then the image block, we'll give it a padding. The padding will be 0 and then 15 px. For the H2, font size, we take 36 px. Margin bottom, we take 24 px. Line height will be 48 px. Text transform will be uppercase. And then color will be our text global variable. The next is the H2 span. We want to give a font size 18 px. Display block, the color, we'll give it our primary global color. And then for the P, we want to give it a margin bottom 10 px. The color will be mute. And then the font size The line height will be 28 px. Finally, we want to style the content block, which is this div. So for the content block, we want to give a padding 0 px, 15 px. All right. We've been able to style this content block, the H2, the P, and then the anchor area, which is this side. We've not styled it because we have BTN main. This BTN and BTN main is a global styling we are supposed to apply for our button. So let's scroll up and check if we've applied those styling initially. We have BTN and BTN main. So we've not applied them right. We're going to style it in a way that we can always recall this class and then use them anytime we need them. The same thing for grid 2. We're also going to style it in a way that we can reuse it later. But before we do that, let's go and refresh our browser. So when we refresh, we have something like this. Who we are, and this is our test. Okay, like I said, we need to style the BTN. So it means we've already styled this BTN before. It's just to locate it in our code. I think we did that when we worked on hero section. So I'll just scroll down to our hero section. This is it. So we have BTN, BTN. So it's just reused the previous code we did for this BTN and BTN. So there's no need to restyle this our anchor tag. What we need to do now is to work on this grid 2. So we need to style grid 2. Just like we did for grid 3, we're going to be using this grid 2 also some places in our code. So back to the top area, we have the grid 3 here. Before the grid 3, we can now style our grid 2. For the grid 2 class, and then display grid. After display grid, we want to create a grid template column. This time around, we will have one fraction unit and one fraction unit. So this will create two columns for us. And then we'll give it a gap of 24 px. Also, we need to style this grid 2 for our tablet and mobile view. So whatever happens on tablet view, we also want it to happen on mobile view. So we don't need to style for that of mobile view again. So in the tablet view, we can just say dot grid 2. We want a grid template column of one fractional unit and a gap of 32 px. So I think that is all. And when we go to our browser and then refresh, we have this. The gap is not working for the desktop view. So let's see what the problem is. It actually worked. I think we used a background color. So that background made it seem as if we didn't give any gap, but it's actually applied. We can confirm this by going to our demo project. The only thing we are not having is the padding here. We have a padding here and the padding here. So back to our code. In the grid 2, we have the container. So in order to resolve this, in the about section, we can give another class and call it section block. So this section block, we're going to style it in our CSS. I'll just copy it. And then in the CSS, because I want to be using this styling most places in my code, I'll be using this class in most sections of my HTML. So I want to style it at the top here. And then I'll give it a padding of 96 px. So padding, the top will be 96 px, left and right should be 0, and then the bottom should take 48 px. So any other section I use this class is going to apply this padding. And when we go and refresh, okay, we now have it this way. So we are satisfied with what we have. The next thing we want to do is to add the animation to it. So go back to our HTML. You can close this CSS tab. In the HTML, we'll only add animation to the image block. So we have wow, and then animate slide in left. The wow duration will be 1.2 seconds. And then we'll go to our browser and refresh. It will now have our animation applied in the who we are section. So we're going to stop here for today. In our next class, we'll work on the next section.